So Forza Horizon 6 is coming out soon, and I, for one, am actually really excited for what I've seen. The game looks like it's taking some of my biggest issues with Horizon 5 and fixing them, on top of adding some really interesting ideas and mechanics. However, there is one thing that the game is priding itself on in the marketing material, and that is the return of zero-to-hero progression. A lot of people look at the original Forza Horizon game as one of the champions of progression in racing games. And whenever you hear people discuss progression in racing games, it always comes up. So clearly, Horizon 6 will get people excited for this sort of progression to return, right? Why are we like this? This sort of thing right here is why I absolutely hate the progression debate in racing games. It seems like whenever you hear people talk about racing games, they always bring up progression as this massive thing that makes racing games great, and that racing games have killed progression as a whole for the casuals. However, what most people fail to realize is that this sort of rhetoric is an extremely gatekeeping mindset when it comes to racing games, and that it fundamentally encourages genre stagnation. Oftentimes, when people discuss progression, they bring up games with slow progression curves like Midnight Club 3 and Underground 2 and call it good progression, and bring up games with fast progression curves like Forza Horizon 5 and call it bad progression. However, oftentimes the debate either fails to take into account how the progression factors into a general gameplay loop and design of the game in question, or it's just enforcing a revisionist account on certain games to fit into an anti-modern racing game narrative. Getting back into Forza Horizon 6, this has the perfect example of the lattermost point. Some pre-release videos, namely Hoki Hoshi's, have said that the game splits the difference between Forza Horizon 5 and Forza Horizon 1 when it comes to progression.
One of the biggest points they've been advertising is that you aren't a superstar anymore. You aren't the famous Horizon hero. You come to Japan as a nobody and have to earn your place in the festival. A lot of us have been pretty excited for that. It's the feeling we got when we played Horizon 1. You were unknown. You had to earn your place by taking down the bigger names and making one for yourself. This time around, we aren't getting that full return to form. They're sort of trying to split the difference between modern and original Horizon.
And a lot of people were not happy with that. Most of the top comments in that video were ragging on the game's supposed lack of real progression, even though the game literally hasn't come out yet, and wanted the game to go to an Underground 1 style of progression, or to go full on like Forza Horizon 1, because apparently that has a really good progression curve. Thing is though, I'm thoroughly convinced that a lot of people have yet to play the first Horizon, because if you actually played it, you would realize that the game's progression curve was not as good as people said it. In Forza Horizon 1, while you weren't just given like a C9 Corvette out the gate, you were still given a load of credits to just spend however you damn well please. And you could have an R3 class car before you even fought Ramona Curvace, depending on how you played the game. Sure, you couldn't race a car like that yet, but racing was only half the game. There was still the exploration aspect, and having a faster car allowed you to find outposts faster, which allowed you to fast travel and more efficiently explore the map, made hunting down discount signs faster, which further breaks progression by making upgrades ridiculously cheap or even free, allowed you to acquire and find barn finds faster, which gives you free cars, including the Bugatti EB110, which is one of the most overpowered cars in the whole game, and it allows you to better and more effectively perform skill change, which not only give you money, but also allow you to unlock showcase events, which give you more money and even more cars. Sure, theoretically speaking, you could do this in almost any car, but a faster car is almost always better for those purposes. And as for the whole zero to hero thing that everyone says, despite the fact you were literally a nobody coming into the festival, after beating the Horizon Heats, you were personally invited by Alice Hart, the organizer of the festival, mind you, to participate in a showcase event. Keep in mind, you've only been at the festival for a grand total of like 8 hours in-game, and you've done only one race in your entire time there. And you already have a personal invite to something that Alice explicitly says are meant for the most popular drivers at the festival. On top of this, Alice contacts you for damn near everything in the game. And if you have an uncompleted showcase event on the map you have yet to do, she constantly pesters you to do it.
Do I need to find another driver for my showcase event? Get back to me.
It's very clear the game is giving the players some preferential treatment, and if you were a complete zero going into the game, you would not be given as many advantages as you had in this game. Yet despite everything I've said, the game's progression curve works perfectly for the kind of game it is. And same with the curve for Horizon 5, even if it was admittedly a little unrewarding. The idea of pretty much every single Forza game past Motorsport 3 was that it was meant to be a playground for your favorite cars. You would find a car that you like, buy it with the funds you have available to you or have it given to you, and then just mess around with it in the races you have available to it. It was literally in the name of the devs of Horizon, playground games. It was meant to be a playground. It was never meant to be an underground-like experience where you just start with literally nothing and have to claw your way out to the top. And having that sort of progression be antithetical to the entire experience the game is trying to go for. And this goes into my second issue with the progression debate. People who talk about progression in racing games fail to understand that not every game needs a slow progression curve, and that some games benefit more from having a faster progression curve or just no progression curve at all. The aforementioned Forza Horizon 5 is a great example of this sort of behavior, but there is another game I feel that epitomizes it, and that is Need for Speed Most Wanted 2012. Now, I personally do not like this game all that much, but one of the things I did like about it was the progression system. A lot of people look at this game and say it has bad progression because you can get the supercars out the jump, and because the older Most Wanted had a slower progression curve. But the thing they are missing is that the game itself isn't structured to linear campaign like Most Wanted 05. It is a non-linear, open experience that promotes and thrives off of variety. The main driving force behind progression in Most Wanted 2012 is the speed point system. And speed points are required by doing, well, anything. Drifting, boosting, racing, fucking with the cops, doing stunts, anything and everything you do contributes to the speed boost meter. And if this game were to have progression similar to its predecessor, it would ruin the game because the whole idea was that you could play how you wanted and not only progress, but be rewarded for it. And let us not forget the old school racers like the original Need for Speed games or Midtown Madness 1 and 2 that gave you the option to drive around in the majority of its car list out the jump. Those games did not need underground style progression curves to be fondly remembered. So shut the hell up. But the worst part of it all is the elitism aspect of the whole thing. Whenever you see people discuss progression in racing games, I almost always say that games like Forza Horizon 5 or games that have fast progression curves are made for casuals. And this is the kind of gatekeeping nonsense that has made the RGC so toxic in recent years. Of course Horizon 5 was made for casuals. You wanna know what else was made for casuals? Literally every single other arcade racer! That's why they're called arcade racers! They are for the casual market. Whenever someone says this, it reeks of someone wanting to be perceived as better for playing a specific game, and I, for one, absolutely cannot stand it. Elitism is something that I've always hated in gaming, and this shit is no fucking different. Fuck you if you say that, you are just making things worse. But I probably should wrap this up before I get too heated. In summary, while there is a discussion to be had as to how progression in racing games affects the general experience the game has to offer, it is not the be-all, end-all that determines whether a game is good. A game can have fast progression and still be good, as proven with the original Forza Horizon. And just because a game has fast progression or no progression at all, does not mean it's bad. A game with fast progression is not just for casuals, and a game with slow progression isn't made for hardcores, or whatever the fuck you call yourself now. And the belief that racing games with slow progression are better is nostalgia-fueled gatekeeping nonsense that should die along with the horse that ran it. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like what you saw, please hit the like button, comment, and subscribe, and I'll be sure to catch you all next time. Bye-bye!